Also put everyone in mute. So
You don't want us to talk?
okay. Except one more. Hold on one second. Aaron Selko.
I got it, John.
You got it? Okay. And Ira. All right, Aaron, go ahead.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to get started.
Here we go. So I'm going to start with, before I even introduce myself, it is exciting for me. After a few webinars like this over the recent months and getting ready for the summer, that I finally am on a webinar with people my own age, and I can say, isn't this just like the Brady Bunch? And you'll know what I'm talking about. But I hope that that's the case. Some of you watch that show along with me. Anyway, more importantly, my name is Aaron Selko. I'm the director at Camp Harlam. I have not met everybody personally that's on the call tonight, but I have met you, and I'm really excited for the summer, and I'm excited for this team of folks that we've brought together. And I really want to begin by just saying thank you, and you'll hear that again tonight. But you know, in the 25 years that I've been doing this work, I'm certain that I haven't yet found a more difficult and complex job that only gets more so year after year. And I think back to the times further back, if I think about when I was a camper, but as a staff member, I don't think that I had a child who took medication during the day. And as an 18-year-old counselor, I freely told my kids who didn't feel well that they were not allowed to go to the mirpa. And I can't recall that we ever heard that parents heard about that. It was just completely different. And year after year at Harlam in particular, we have seen a greater investment time after time in the development of this team and the systems. We'll talk a bit about that tonight, but I just so appreciate and respect your willingness to be part of it. So let me actually do a little bit of housekeeping first. Just going to talk through the way that the webinar works. This may or may not be a familiar platform for you, but whether you're on the phone right now or are actually sitting at a computer looking at a screen, or even looking at a screen on a device, I want to walk through the way that this works so that this can be, you know, helpful to you tonight. John already mentioned that he placed us in mute. This is really the last time that we will have that control for the summer. So, you know, it just makes it a bit easier so that we're not hearing the background noise. And a little later, we'll, you know, be able to hear from people, but it'll be a bit easier for Ira and for John and myself just to have a little less background and a little easier for you to hear. If you do need to unmute yourself, the button to do that is on the bottom left of your screen, or if on your phones, there may have been a voice command about how to actually come off of mute, but we'll see how that works. We are showing this webinar on a screen. So John is sharing his desktop, and that's what we're going to be using for the slides to sort of take us through the conversation tonight for the webinar. The recording will include this information, so if you want to reference this later, it's something that John will make available to you. You can also turn on or off the video for yourself. As I look around, I see Ira. I see Marcia moving swiftly. Anyway, so it's really your choice. You don't have to be on video tonight, but if you choose to, that command is at the bottom of your screen. I mentioned already we're sharing the desktop, so that's what we'll be using to follow along. And then finally, in terms of asking questions, we will make sure at the very end if there are any questions that you feel like need to be answered with everyone, or questions that you think can't wait until reaching out to John later or when you come to camp, and obviously there'll be more training. Please feel free to ask them tonight. At the end of the webinar, we'll leave time if we haven't already covered them. But the easiest way to ask questions, and I think it's been efficient when we've used the webinar platform before, is at the bottom of your screen, if you're on your computer, there is an option to chat. And you can just click that and choose if you're wanting to pose the question to everyone or to just one of the moderators. And that way we can even answer those in real time. Both Ira and John and actually myself will be keeping track of any of those questions on chat, and we'll make sure to address them before the end of the night. And that is it for how the webinar works. So with that, John, actually, can you put up all the bullets for me?
Sure.
Thanks. Okay. So for the benefit of those that are new to Camp Harlam, who may have taken a year off, but also for those who were part of our team last year, I want to start by looking back. It's really what does inform our looking forward. The context before I go through these individual bullets, is that we see every system and every department at camp as an opportunity to develop excellence. And over the years of Harlam's history, we've had excellent summers of all the different departments and areas. We've had great summers of programming and great summers of health service and great summers of food and so on and so forth. What we're trying to do, and we're being very deliberate and thoughtful about it, is trying to approach each and every area of camp with strategies that can create institutional excellence so that we don't simply benefit from a great summer when everything was aligned, or a terrific group of talented professionals, or great luck, which, by the way, we're happy when we have any and all of those things, but we want to also have institutional excellence, systems in place, processes that work. And to do that, you have to be willing to make change, and you have to use your experiences to learn and to then redevelop new strategies. And we, last year, went into the summer of 2015 knowing that we wanted to make some changes. We made some significant ones, and then we went through a summer of learning. So I want to highlight just 4 areas or 5 that I feel like represent some of the key takeaways based on all of the feedback we received from our staff working in the health center, from other staff in camp, certainly from our parents, surveys that they provide, even our campers and our staff do surveys at the end of the summer. So anyway, we have lots of information. First and most importantly, I want to stress that we feel like our campers received good care, that we had some really talented people working in our health center throughout the summer, and we felt like last summer was a summer of growth. That is critical. We are in a business that has tremendous volatility and lots of liability. And as I said at the outset of the call, we're dealing with more and more challenges that we're seeing in our campers and our staff each and every summer. So to make it through a summer and be able to say at the end that we did a good job is no small order and no small accomplishment. So we feel great about that. And for those that were on our staff last year, we want to thank you again for being a part of that. Now let's move on to those areas where we feel like we have an opportunity for growth. First, we know that there is a lack of consistency and continuity in terms of care. Part of that certainly is contributed to by the turnover of our staff. That's the reality that we face at Harlam overall. And that definitely makes continuity challenging. Even if we have the same intentions and everyone is really talented, when every 2 or 4 weeks or so people change, even every week at a time when our doctors may turn over, we know that there's going to be a need for greater planning and systems. And that's the second piece of it, that when you have a lack of systemacy and procedures, it's just more likely that each of us is going to do things our own way or inadvertently make change along the way. And we need, for the sake of our kids' health and well-being and for the staff, we need there to be continuity. Next, on-site supervision. Camp Harlam for a number of years had benefited from having consistent supervision over the summer. But that supervision was not done by a medical professional. And we felt after taking a summer off of having a summer-long supervisor, that we wanted to turn to that, but having learned from where some of the key areas would be. And we're very excited about having been able to move that forward this year, and we'll talk more about that during the call. We felt like we needed to take advantage of the great expertise of people in our midst and really of what's going on in the field. to be able to enhance the medical treatment materials, the references that our staff are able to use, and to also engage in a more deep and meaningful relationship with a consulting physician. And that's something that we are excited to share more about tonight, which actually has been communicated, of course, with you via emails and some phone calls already. And then finally, we know after a few years of trying medication distribution a certain way, having changed it from what it once was, that we still have room for improvement. So those are 5 key insights from last summer that we want to share at the outset. And John's going to now sort of move us through some of those specific improvements and plans for the summer.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. So, the success of the health center really starts with the people that are working there. And we think that this summer we've put together a team that will really help us move forward in the direction we want to go to. So, Aaron briefly touched on, what we learned about last summer was from a supervision perspective. And, coming out of the summer, in the early beginning of the fall, we said, we really sat down and talked about what our goals and plans were for staffing in the health center, and started with the leader and the supervision on a day-to-day basis. So we set out to hire a head nurse, and we're really happy that Miriam Aronowitz is going to be with us all summer, and she's on the call. And we've had some really positive conversations about what the head nurse job will entail. And we're really looking forward to her arrival and getting things going, and having someone here on a regular basis across the summer who will provide a good level of supervision, continuity, consistency that we're looking for, and managing the communication to all the necessary people involved in camp. Then the next group is the nurses, and obviously many of you on this call are nurses, and we're thrilled and excited to have both new and returning nurses back at camp this summer. And the care and the love that you give to the campers is something that we really appreciate and are excited that you're going to bring that to camp this summer. And, it's certainly a challenging job, and we are certainly excited for the group that we have coming this summer. Next is the doctors that we have going to be on site on 1-week rotations, who will be providing our campers with, examinations and able to write prescriptions and give their medical opinion on the proper care. So we really excited to have a good group of both new and returning doctors this summer. Some that are coming for the first time, that are camp parents, some that are camp alumni, and are really excited and eager to come to camp and provide that level of care. Next is Dr. Laveau, who's on the call, who after last summer we wanted to revisit how we addressed our care in the health center, and it started with gaining some real high-level medical expertise that will really kind of draw down on what the most important things we need to know. And we started having conversations with Ira back in the fall, and we've been continuing to meet and talk. And many of you have received lots of emails from him with some really important references and information. And he has been and will continue to be both a great resource and a really valuable partner to camp, not just from a medical perspective, from a parent perspective, because he is the parent of 3 Harlam campers as well. So we're excited for the guidance he's going to be giving us and the help that he will provide to our medical staff. Next is me, and my job is to be the support system for all of our medical staff and be the person that is directly every day coming in from the outside of the health center, checking in with Miriam and our nurses and our doctors, and helping to make key decisions and getting the right people involved, and also making sure that they have the necessary information of what's going on about camp, whether that's out of camp trips or special days or days off or events, whatever the case may be, making sure that information is known so that they can provide the care and know what to expect on those days at camp. And finally is Aaron, obviously our leader and director, who obviously oversees me and helps to oversee the health center and to make sure that, it provides the guidance that we need and helps to make some really important key decisions when the quote unquote big guns are needed. So we really feel like we've built a strong team to make some really great improvements this summer and continue the great care that we give. So many of you have been to the health center before, some of you have not, so I'll talk a little about the accommodations. All of our nurses live in residential rooms in the health center. We have a wing of rooms. The first 6 are camper or guest rooms, and the second set of 6 rooms are for our staff, our nurses, who are on site and have their own room. This summer, we've upgraded a little bit and have added some new dressers and nightstands to the rooms, so we're excited for that. And some of you will be just sharing a bathroom with one other nurse, but other than that, you'll have your own private room and a place to go when you're on your time off. Next is transportation to and from camp. Many of you who will not be driving to camp will be getting airport pickups. I'll be collecting will be collecting your flight information, and we'll be providing transportation for your arrival to camp and your departure. So if we haven't connected yet about that, please send that information, and we'll make sure that we have someone to get you at the airport on your arrival date. This is more for as a staff as a whole, but we have really put a large effort this summer on staff engagement and programming for our staff that you guys are welcome to join when your schedule allows it. We've made some really great strides in that, including hiring a staff engagement supervisor to make sure that we are both meeting the needs of our staff, that they're engaged in the camp community, and are also feeling appreciated for the work that they do, and also recognized for the work that they do, because they're working long hours and working with some really wonderful kids for not a whole lot of money, and they're doing it because they want to be here. And so we're making a really big effort to make sure we improve those areas of camp this summer. Everyone should have gotten a contract by now, and this summer we've moved to a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks getting paid this summer. And then in your contracts or the employment policies, we expect that you read over those and are not really anticipating any problems, certainly from this area of camp. And really, I think I covered everything, but we'll cover more as we go further into the webinar. So just to go over some basics of the health center. The first thing is the hours of the health center. Miriam will be making the schedule for all the nurses, but we work basically 12-hour days, where the shifts are you get 4 hours off of that 12-hour shift during that time. Nurses work on a rotational basis on an overnight shift, and when you are on the overnight shift, you have the morning off so you can recover on some of the sleep that you may have lost from the previous night. And I just touched on schedules. Going back to sick call. Sick call is an opportunity for campers to see the camp doctor. So, if they have a sore throat or want to get something checked out, they have opportunities twice a day. After breakfast and after lunch is when they can see the camp doctor. And then if something is urgent or pressing, we will communicate with the camp doctor via the walkie-talkie system and ask that you come see a patient if it really calls for it. We talked a little bit about schedules. We talked a little about the nurses' rooms, your accommodations living there, and also the main triage center. The building is air conditioned, so it's nice and cool in the summer, and there's a large triage area with its own medication room and exam room for the doctors. The medication room is where we stock all of our over-the-counter and prescription medication. It's able to be locked when the room is unattended, and we stock a lot of over-the-counter medication pretty much for most ailments. And if there's something that we do need, we have several pharmacies about 10-15 minutes away that we can go to pretty much any time of the day we need. Talking about the exam room, it's a private exam room where the doctor can close the door and meet with a camper or staff member in confidence to go over any medical any concerns that they are having. And finally, new to the health center this summer, really nothing that you need to be too aware of, but really just know that it's there, is an area called the chill zone, which as of yesterday was constructed and finished. And that is an area that is being headed by our camper care team, which is an area where the lounge in the back used to be. There's now a wall that separates from the rest of the health center, and the entrance is on that kind of back patio area, which you'll see. It's an area for kids who are having different issues or need a place to kind of go and chill. And there's a lot of different things in the chill zone, sensory objects and lights and noise machines that'll help them decompress a little bit. And that place will be managed by Camper Care, but just want you to know that it is there this summer and to be aware of it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a thing that is nothing really new to, I'm sure, to the medical profession, but something at camp that we've coined as a continuity of care this summer. So basically, what that is that the people, anyone that comes into the health center, whether that's a camper or a staff member, is getting a consistent treatment every time they come in. That every person that comes in is getting the same treatment, and that's, that doesn't happen out of thin air. It's developed from out of a couple measures. The first thing is communication. So communication in the health center is key. There's a lot of communication going in many different directions. And the first one is with parents. So parents want to know what's going on with their kids at camp, both when things are good and when things are bad, but especially when their camper is not feeling well or is in the health center. As many of you know who are parents on the call now, you know that we live in a different era when it comes to communication and accessibility to camp, and that's no different in the health center. So our communication with parents is very important, and we have some pretty hard and fast rules when it comes to communicating with parents. So anytime a camper is admitted to the health center, so staying overnight, a call is done, a parent is phoned. And then anytime a camper is taken out of camp to see a doctor or to get a second opinion, a parent is also called. We want to keep the lines of communication with parents open and frequent so that they feel comfortable and know that their kid is getting the best care. Next is between the on-site health center staff. So it's vital that you guys are communicating with each other both verbally and digitally in our CampMinder system. So, it can be, sometimes it can be very difficult to communicate when there's so much going on in the health center. We want to make sure that we are doing our very best to communicate with each other when campers come in or when notes need to be put in the system and things like that. The next is with Ira, our consulting doctor. There will be regular daily communication with Dr. Laveau, and he's available to consult on, get a second opinion on certain medical things or medical issues. So Miriam and myself and Aaron will have regular communication with Dr. Laveau, and we'll add just another layer of guidance for us that we think will be really valuable. Next is with Camper Care. So our Camper Care department is comprised of 5 people who are special education teachers, licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, all people in those fields who both have the most regular communication with our parents and deal with campers who are struggling at camp. And they're a valuable team, and it's headed by Corey Miller, who's our Camper Care enrollment manager. And Camper Care at camp has really evolved over the last several years under Corey and Aaron and Lisa. And there's going to be a lot of times where the health center and the Camper Care team really overlap. So it's important that the communication happens. And we're going to work with, we have some procedures and protocols that we're going to go over when we get to camp on how we are logging those communications so that all the people that need to know are able to see that information. The next is with myself and Aaron. So I'm going to be the boots on the ground person from a professional staff level. I'm going to be in there every day checking in talking to the nurses, talking to doctors, just trying to help any way I can to support the staff in there to make sure that we are giving the best care to our kids and that everyone in the health center feels comfortable and supported and feel like their needs are being met. And finally, with other staff. So when a camper comes to the health center, they're staying overnight, they might need some stuff in their bunk, or their unit head needs to know and the counselors need to know. So the communication with everyone else in camp is key. Notifying unit heads about various things when campers are going out of camp, or notifying them when a camper needs a toothbrush or needs their teddy bear, whatever the case may be. That's all valuable stuff. So that's all part of the communication model at camp. Next is CampMinder. So CampMinder is our system that is our camp system for pretty much everything we do, but has a separate partition in there for medical reporting, medical logging, and logging of medical treatments. So it's a multi-layered program. It's pretty intuitive and it's very robust. So there's a lot that you can do with it. And as nurses come, we'll provide training on how to use it. But a couple of key things I want to touch on are notes on campers. So Dr. Jesse, who is up in the health center right now, has been working with us this year to review medical forms as they come in, and has been a valuable partner in helping us to address concerns that we might have off of the forms that we're getting. And the notes are in the system, the internal notes in the system, so that you can see, so that when Johnny comes to the health center, you know that he has a certain medical condition or issue that has been flagged, so that'll help you to treat them in a certain manner. So notes are key and are certainly important to review before you treat a camper. The next is action plans. So several campers who have some sort of action plan, whether that's asthma or diabetes or any other condition, they'll have an action plan in the notes in the section in CampMinder that are also important to review. And certainly the campers that are our VIPs are our highest priority that we know about. That information will be shared with the nurses and doctors. Our diabetics, our kids who have severe allergies to certain foods, all those kind of things will be shared not just with our health center staff, but also with the counselors, unit heads, and other staff that need to know about these campers. And the last thing is logging and treatment. So we'll go more in depth in that when you get to camp. But anytime a camper comes to the health center, it's vital that the information and the treatment gets logged into CampMinder, so we have a running record of what's going on, both for legal reasons and so that we can be informed about the treatment that they've gotten previously. So we know that when someone comes to the health center, that this is their 5th time in 2 days, that it might need to be investigated a little further. So logging and treatment is a key thing to maintaining that continuity and making sure that the campers are getting the best care. So that is kind of a basic rundown of all the things in the health center that I was going to cover. And I'm going to turn it over next to Dr. Laveau, who's going to talk a little bit about himself and some of the things, his role this summer, and then some of the materials that you have gotten thus far. So, Ira?
Hi, guys. Hope all's well. I know some of you from the past few summers. Looking forward to meeting those people I have yet to make acquaintances with. Like John and Aaron had alluded to, we met at the end of last summer to see what worked and what didn't work. And our goal was, first and foremost, to establish a true sense of continuity of care and master those things that we do well, and those things that arise on an intermittent or a spontaneous basis, well, those things we would pretty much treat and street. So our emphasis was to be akin to walking into a diner. Instead of looking at a menu with 10 or 15 pages, we thought we'd focus upon the most common pathology that we see in the healthcare center, master that, make sure what we do well, and what is out of our area of expertise, we identify that sooner than later and make sure the kids receive the appropriate medical care as soon as possible. Because we have an array of people this year who come from a variety of backgrounds, we thought it would be in the campers as well as the camp's best interest to unify the camp care that we render via Flipbook. So over the course of the last few weeks and months, you'll be getting a few emails talking about how to, what to, how we do it, why we do it, etc. It might be very simplistic, but you have to remember the people that are receiving this email hail from an array of backgrounds. Some people are internists, other people are have subspecialties within internal medicine, ranging from OBGYN to pediatrics to family practice, NPs, PAs, etc., nurses. So we want to make sure we find a common denominator that we can all grasp, identify with, and master. So this year, unlike in years past, there'll be a reference guide as opposed to looking up in Nelson or Harrison or Harriet Lane. You'll have at your fingertips some of the most common pathology we see, in addition to treatment plans and modalities. So whether it's Dr. A, Dr. B, Dr. C, they're doing week 2, 3, or 4, he or she is employing the same modalities each and every week. Now, this is probably going to be a bit redundant for the pediatricians that go up there, because a lot of this is common sense and a lot of this is routine stuff for us because we do it day after day. But you don't see kids on a regular basis. Some people don't know how to treat otorrhea. Some people don't know how to treat acute otitis media. Some people don't know how to treat an STD. So it's all spelled out based upon what I saw over the last 6 years as a camp. So my role this year is pretty much as a consulting physician. I'm here to aid you, here to aid John, aid Aaron any way that I can. The doctor on staff, he or she is the captain of the ship. They're going to be at the helm each week. They'll be making the decisions on a day-to-day basis in terms of medical decision-making. But I'm there to bounce any questions off of. If you're not a pediatrician and it's in the book, but you still don't understand what's going on, or if it's something outside your scope of expertise, call me. You can call me in the morning, call me at night, call me in the afternoon. I'm accessible by text, email, phone. I prefer a phone call because I'm just a lousy texter. And I will certainly take the time to talk to you, work through the problem together, and we'll come through a plan that makes sense. I'm never going to second guess anybody, but because you guys are, as John alluded to, the boots on the ground, but I'm there to aid you with any and all diagnoses that you may be uncomfortable making yourself. So if you're the nurse, if you're the GI doc, you're the NP, the PA, the OBGYN, internal medicine, whatever your background is, feel free to call and we'll work through the problem together. Like I said, you guys are the eyes and the ears, and I'm the guy with the opinion, and I'm the curbside consult, and I'm here to help any way I can. With that being said, I'll be up there on both opening days. I will be up there one time in addition to each session, just to help out any way I can. I'll be in touch with John, Aaron, Marion on a daily basis with any questions that should arise. I'll be arriving the day before the first session to meet with the staff to do a quick seminar about how to identify the sick camper. It's one thing if we as the healthcare professionals are in the mirror and we identify the child because that's our job, but we're asking 16, 17, 18-year-olds to identify what's wrong with this kid and bring it to our attention. And in years past, I've never thought it was a problem, and I don't think it ever will be. Fortunately, these kids are conscientious young adults, and if the kid is sick, they bring the kid to the mirror. Unlike Aaron 30 years ago, he didn't bring the kid to the mirror. So things have changed a little bit, right, Aaron? Aaron?
Thank you for saying it was 30 years ago.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem. With that being said, I am a pediatrician. I have a few practices in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, so I do this on a regular basis. When I'm not in my offices, I'm the medical director of pediatric specialty care, which are long-term care facilities for chronically and terminally ill kids. So my experience run the gamut from the well kid, preventive care, acute, chronic, and terminal. So I'm happy to be a part of all this. Thank you for having me. And again, please take advantage of my presence. I'm never going to let anybody if they call me in the middle of the night. My job this summer is to aid you in any way that we can.
Great. I just want to take the opportunity, John, before you move us forward, to just thank Ira again for his support. Actually, it's been a tradition at camp over the year, certainly before I came, that we've had some terrific physicians who have volunteered their time and energy throughout the course of the year. And to have been able to formalize that role this year has been really helpful to us. And, we're excited to take full advantage of your willingness, Ira, to be supportive. So, thank you for being so engaged, and I'm sure it'll be helpful to us.
Thank you.
Great. So at this time, I'm actually going to unmute everyone and take some time for questions. Any good questions or comments now? So feel free just to speak up if you have any questions.
John, it's Ina.
Hi.
Are we going to have the people that come and do the lice checks at the beginning of the camp sessions?
Yeah, great question. So, in terms of opening day, we are continuing to do lice checks and health checks. Over the last couple of years, we've refined and we've gotten lice pretty good. So, for especially this last summer, we're confident. We'll work with the same company again. They worked with last summer called the Center for Lice Control. And we have spread out lice checks throughout camp on opening day, so to try to reduce the wait time in lines. We have a written procedures and protocol for when a camper, if and when a camper is diagnosed with lice, and how we treat it and how we communicate with the parents. So that's part of opening day, as well as the health checks where they go. All health checks and lice checks are in the same location based on what age group the child is in. So when a camper goes and gets their head checked and their temperature checked and they come out okay, they'll get 2 different colored bracelets. That's how we know that they're good to go. We have made drastic changes to our opening day procedures as well, which you'll learn more about for those staff. They'll be with us on opening day. So we have done that now for a couple of summers and are excited to continue that, and we will continue with lice checks.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's Becky Bernstein. Will there be a list of kind of protocols for when, like for instance, when a child sleeps overnight, of whether to call that parent, when we admit them or the next day? I know there's been confusion in the past, and we like to keep it consistent. Will there be some, guidelines written down so that everyone that, every 2 weeks or whenever all the nurses come, that everyone will be consistent?
Yeah. Aaron, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Becky, thank you for asking that. Actually, this might be one of the single most important things that we do that isn't related to medicine. Becky, you've been at camp for a number of years, so you know that from your experience. Parents are at home, and while they care about the medical care that their children are getting, and I think that they appreciate when there's a physician at camp that's able to see their child, and I'm sure they appreciate that the nurses work around the clock. But at the end of the day, the single most important thing they care about is knowing what's going on. And for me, I know as a parent being at camp, I take for granted the fact that I can get an update by walking into the health center. So to your point, Becky, one of the things that Ira and our team have talked a lot about is to create a sense of complete clarity on when it is that we call parents, and as specifically as we can about what it is that we're doing when we call. So yes, we'll have a clear protocol, not only that you can see in a flip book, but also on a big poster on the wall that says, these are the occasions when you would call, and specifically to your point, that call would be made at this time. So hopefully that'll help sense of continuity and confidence that our nurses don't have to wonder whether this fits into, the category A or category B. The other thing I want to just mention is just sort of reiterate something John said. And for those that have not used the CampMinder system before, this may not be as helpful. But for those that have, we have the ability with this online platform, not only for the health center to be able to record information more efficiently, but for other people in camp, including our professional staff and camper care, to gain access to certain information. We're able to restrict that access pretty specifically. Why that's important this summer, and how it relates to Becky's question, is that, it's also important not only that, Becky, you're making that phone call at a particular time, but that somebody else knows about it. Because often our parents are going to make multiple phone calls. And if they make that phone call to camper care, and Susan Spann, one of our camper care staff, doesn't know that you've had the chance in the health center to connect with that parent, and even if they know that you have, they don't know the nature of the conversation, we're creating a lot more work and often a greater likelihood for a misunderstanding or miscommunication. So we've talked a lot and looked at the systems and found some interesting ways, without doing too much extra work, to maintain a little bit more seamless communication between the different departments that are going to be in touch with parents as well. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
I think, Becky, I think a general rule of thumb would be if you were on the other end, and like Aaron said, you've been there at camp, so you get it. But I've always practiced in the sense that if a child is admitted to the mirror, I place a phone call to let the family know they're being admitted. I follow up that phone call after rounds the following day, and when he or she goes back to the bunk, they get a phone call as well. So it's kind of like a pot, watching a pot boil. Some parents hang on every word and every call. So I try to minimize those calls and make sure the most applicable information is being passed on to them. But I think it's reasonable to call a parent to let them know they got admitted, give them an update the following day when they're rounded upon, and then if he or she's going home that day or that night, to give them a heads up that they're going back to the bunk. This way they feel like they're in the loop at all times from beginning to end.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Any other questions? Anything at all?
Big,
Big, small.
This is Marcia.
This is,
I just had a quick question. I know last year there was a problem when a parent called. Is when children speak to their parents, should it just only go through Camper Care when they're inpatient?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Marcia. We'll make sure that everybody's on the same page when you come, but we tend to try to follow a policy that kids are not going to talk to their folks unless we've had explicit permission. I think with the rule of thumb of just making sure before we put a camper on a call that we check with, in this case, this summer, we'll have the opportunity to work with Miriam throughout the entire season. I think she'll be, in time, more and more comfortable making that call herself. But unless you know that there's explicit permission for that child to talk to a parent, all we're going to ask and expect as a rule of thumb is just to make sure by asking whether it's going to be John or directly, we're touching base with Camper Care to make sure. So, we tend to make exceptions constantly for this policy because, I think it's important that parents have the chance to talk to their kids on these particular cases where, it's going to be helpful to the child. But we like to make the exceptions rather than the rule that, others are just going to give that permission. So we'll talk more about that when we start. But I think that's been the rule of thumb that we're going to try to abide by.
Okay.
And I think there was somebody else about to ask a question as well.
yeah, this is Sandy. I wanted to ask, is the Camp Minder program, is it the same as it was last year? There's no big changes in it at all?
Nope.
Okay.
There you go, Sandy. Every once in a while, things don't change. Just, yeah, no,
That's all right.
Yeah, we are gonna. I mentioned we are gonna use the treatment and log platform in Camp Minder just a little bit differently in terms of some of the coding, but that's something we'll talk about more specifically. But the platform's the same, the technology's the same, and we'll be using similar machines that you'll have access to. So it should be, for those that have been at camp before, at least, it should be very familiar.
And would each nurse, while they're on duty, have access to a laptop? Or
yeah, John, do you have a sense of what the quantity of?
Yeah. So we'll have a kind of a main computer that will sit on the side where the window is, that has access to the printer, and then we have another 4 or 5 Google Chromebooks or
Chromebooks here.
yeah.
6.
So how many? 6. So one of those may be going to Camper Care, but other than that the 5 Chromebooks will cover every nurse that'll be there.
okay.
And in terms of other means of communication, walkie-talkies, and then if need be, cell phones. Although that is not a thing that we try to encourage with our staff, knowing that sometimes it's necessary from a medical perspective. So,
John and
Okay.
Aaron, this is Jude. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Jude.
hi, Jude.
Hey, we have 6 diabetics coming to camp this summer. If who said what? Do you know if all of them have been all the parents have been in contact to set up appointments?
Yep. So I've scheduled all the appointments with these families. For the first session families, I believe we have 5 first session, I believe. And 4 have been scheduled on site. And the other one, because of their proximity and location to camp, we're going to probably do it virtually, but have all been contacted and scheduled for when a critical mass of nurses will be there. The good thing is, with the exception of one of them, they're all returners. So they kind of know the drill and have a good sense of it. And really, while the meetings are important for the nurses and the doctors, the meetings are even more important for the staff, the counselors that are working every day, so they get a chance to meet the kids and know what to look for. So those are scheduled, and I will be providing those dates for you very shortly whenever the nurses get here. Yep.
Thank you. Everybody sounds sick.
I was just thinking the same thing.
That is, the staff are getting ready to go out on the night out, so that's the noise you might hear outside of my office. So.
Hi, this is Donna Cohen. This is a minor logistic question, but what is the time, you may have already be planning on sharing this, but the time that you're expected to come when you start on that Sunday?
So for doctors, we like to have a bit of a overlap, so where you get a chance to meet with the previous week doctor. So that usually happens around noontime. We like to get you to camp right a little before noon, so you could spend a little bit of time checking in with the previous week doctor about any remaining cases in the health center. And then for our nurses, it's a little more flexible. It also depends on many of them on their flights. But in the early to mid afternoon for our nurses to arrive on the opening of camp is just, or the 19th or so, is just fine.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. One last call for questions.
Miriam, are you there?
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Give me a call so we can set up a time to meet.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be there on Thursday. I'll be there on Thursday too.
Thursday. Okay, great. Okay.
Mhm.
See you then.
Okay.
Great.
John, it's Ina again. I lost connection, so I was off for a minute.
Okay.
Did you say, can you just say again, what time are we supposed to be there on Sunday?
So you can get here, anytime between like 12 and 2 would be fine.
Okay, thanks.
And actually on the 19th, what's good about that is that at 1 o'clock, the 19th is the day that our CITs arrive, our counselors in training, our guest share participants. And at 1 o'clock on the 19th, we all of our staff leave for a day off. So it'll be a pretty quiet day camp, which is nice. So it'll be easy to get settled in.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Sounds like we have no more questions. So before I turn over to Aaron, I just want to say, thank you very much for taking the time to join the call tonight. We're really excited for everyone to get to camp this summer. Many of us have been here for almost 2 weeks now, and it's really exciting to see our staff grow and grow every couple of days. And it just means one thing, that we're getting closer and closer to the kids arriving. So we're really excited for this summer, and we're really excited for you to get to camp and help us in this effort of providing really exceptional care for the members of our community.
Well, I have nothing to add to that. That is perfectly said, John. Thank you. Really, I appreciate the time everyone took tonight. And we know that you'll have more questions. And if those come up between now and when you arrive at camp, continue to reach out to John at any point by phone or by email, so we can make sure that your adjustment and welcome to the summer of 2016 is as smooth as it possibly can be. And we're really committed to making it an exceptional summer for you as well. So we look forward to welcoming you home here to Harlem, and are also happy that we ended something that was scheduled to be much longer a little bit early. So thanks a lot for your participation tonight, and we'll see all of you extremely soon. Take care.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
excited.
Thank you.